In this video, you are going to learn how to factor by grouping. Grouping is a type of factoring that uses the GCF, your greatest common factor, to factor polynomials with 4 terms. Sometimes, so there are going to be times this method doesn't work, you can factor a polynomial by grouping it into 2 terms and factoring the GCF out of each group. It is my favorite type of factoring, and we're going to be seeing it a lot. So make sure if you have questions you're asking, go ahead and take a second to write down the steps if you have not done so. Pause the video because I am going to get started on your first example. Alright, so it says always look for greatest common factor first and factor it out if there is one. The GCF will stay in front of the remain and remain as part of your final answer. Okay, so there are no GCFs here. X cubed, 4x squared, 6x, and 24. I can't take an x out because there's no x with a 24. And I can't take anything out of my coefficients because it's a 1, 4, 6, and 24. My GCF would be 1. Step 2 says to group the 4 terms into 2 sets of binomials using parentheses. So for the sake of this example, I'm just going to rewrite it down here. When it says group it into 2 terms, or I'm sorry, 2 sets of binomials, first set's going to go together, and the plus sign is going to be included in the second set. So binomials, 2 terms, 1, 2, 1, 2. So 2 sets of binomials. Now I'm going to factor out the GCF from each set of terms. So I'm going to look at my first set. What can I take out of x cubed and 4x squared? It would technically be a 1, and then x cubed and x squared would just be x squared would come out. So I would factor out that x squared, leaving x plus 4. I am now going to factor out the GCF of the second set. So it's a positive, so I'm going to factor out a positive number for sure. 6x and 24, I can take a 6 out of 6 and 24, but I can't take an x out, so I'm just taking out a positive 6. That plus 6 is going right here, and you need to make sure you include the sign, the positive 6 in the second set of parentheses. And 6x divided by 6 just leaves an x, 24 divided by 6 leaves a 4. Make sure the binomial remaining in each set of parentheses match. X plus 4, x plus 4. That is your greatest common factor of these 2 terms, and it's exactly what you want to happen every single time you factor by grouping. So x plus 4 is your greatest common factor, so I write it once. I then have an x squared and a plus 6. I rewrite them together in the other set of parentheses. Now I just look, I can check my work. X times x squared gets me that x cubed. X times 6 gets me that 6x. 4 times x squared gets me that 4x squared. And 4 times 6 gets me the 24. So this is the factored form of my expression given. Example 2. Go ahead and take a second to write it down. I'm going to work through all these examples with you. If you want to try them by yourself, you're more than welcome to pause, but make sure you're listening to the things I say. I look, there is no GCF, so I just start. Put my first 2 in parentheses, put my second 2 in parentheses. I find the greatest common factor of the first 2. I can't take anything out of the 4 and 7, but I can take an x squared out of the x cubed and the x squared. X squared goes in front. 4x cubed divided by x squared just leaves me 4x, because 4 divided by 1 is 4. X cubed divided by x squared is x, plus 7, because the x squared simplified to 1. I have a positive in the front here, so it's definitely going to be a positive something I take out. The greatest common factor of 36 and 63 is 9. I can't take an x out of both because there is no x here. So positive 9 is the only thing coming out of the second set of parentheses, leaving 4x plus 7, because 63 divided by 9 is 7. My insides are the same. Beautiful. and then I put my x squared and my plus 9 together in my second set of parentheses. That is my final answer. You might see your final answer written like this sometimes, which is perfectly fine. They just switch the binomials positions. It's the same thing as saying 4 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 4. It's allowed. Alright, example 3. Go ahead and take a second to write it down. We are going to get started. I do not have a greatest common factor that can be pulled out of all 4, so I just start, put my parentheses around it, find the greatest common factor of the first 2. 8 and 4, the greatest common factor is 4. X squared and x cubed, the greatest common factor that can come out of them is x squared. I pull that 4x squared out. 8 divided by 4 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared is just x. Negative 4x squared divided by 4x squared leaves a negative 1. Because negative 4 divided by 4 is 1. X squared divided by x squared is 1. Second set of parentheses. Because this sign right here is negative, I have to take a negative out of something. And remember from our greatest common factor video, when the first term, and this is technically the first term in this set of parentheses, is negative, we have to pull it out. Greatest common factor of 14 and 7 is just 7, and I can't take any x's out. So I'm going to take the negative 7 out. Negative 14 divided by negative 7 is 2x. 7 divided by negative 7 is negative 1. Insides are the same. 2x minus 1. 4x squared minus 7. Because the 4x squared and the minus 7 get written together. This is my final answer. Alright, let's look at number 4 together. Go ahead and take a second to write it down. If you want to try it by yourself, go right ahead. Pause the video and I am going to do it with you. There is no GCF, so I'm just going to start. I can take a 2 out of the 6 and the 20. X squared and x cubed, the most I could take out is x squared. So 2x squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. X cubed divided by x squared is x. Negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. X squared divided by x squared is just 1. So I don't need that placeholder since I have the 10. Now I look here. Positive 3x and a minus 10. I do not have a greatest common factor pulling out 3 and negative 10 besides 1 and x, and there's nothing. So I do have to take out that positive 1 though. Okay, you always need to pull something out of the second set of parentheses, so the greatest common factor there is 1. And then 3x, because 3x divided by 1 is just 3x, and negative 10 divided by 1 is just negative 10. 3x minus 10, 2x squared plus 1 is my final answer. Alright, your very last example, go ahead and write it down. First step is to always find the greatest common factor if there is one. I'm looking 4x to the 4, 6x cubed, negative 52x squared, and negative 78x. Now, I notice that all my coefficients are even, so I can definitely take a 2 out, but there's nothing bigger I can take out. So I'm taking a 2 out of everything. Then I'm going to look at my x's. I have an x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, and x. I have an x in every term, so I can take an x out. So I actually have a GCF. My greatest common factor is 2x, so now I have 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 26x minus 39. Okay, so this 2x, do not forget about it. It is coming back. But right now, all I am worried about is the 4 terms inside those parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite them here. And now, you can just factor using grouping the same way we did for examples 1 through 4. Put the first 2 together, last 2 together. I can pull out an x squared from both of these, leaving x squared on the outside, 2x plus 3. I then look at my second set of parentheses, negative 26x, because I have a negative leading here, and negative is definitely coming out. 26 and negative 39, I can pull a 13 out of both of those, so negative 13 is coming out, but no x's. Negative 26 divided by negative 13 gets me 2x, and negative 39 divided by negative 13 gets me a positive 3. 2x plus 3, x squared minus 13. Now, remember that 2x we took out? That 2x needs to make its way back to the front. Because think about it, if you did not have that 2x there and you started trying to check your work, 2x and x squared get you 2x cubed. That's not a term here. But when you multiply the 2x into either one of these, so if I were to check my work, so this is your final answer. But if I wanted to check my work, I can just distribute that 2x into my first set of parentheses. And then now FOIL or distribute all the terms in. So 4x squared and x squared gets me 4x to the fourth minus 52x squared plus 6x cubed minus 78x. So I did 4x squared times x squared, 4x squared times negative 13, 6x times x squared, and 6x times negative 13. Now you notice 4x to the fourth is there. Negative 52x squared is there. 6x cubed is there. Negative 78x is there. So your GCF always has to pop to the front after you finish factoring using one of the tricks or one of the rules you learned. Let me know if you have any questions.